They're not tracking things like GMV. We're not tracking things like all of the increased production for things on content platforms. How much production from a GDP standpoint do we get out of the content created on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok? I mean, people are making real money. The large majority of people producing on platforms would not have even had the ability to produce had it not been for the platform. Jim Cramer, everyone's probably familiar with Jim.
Mad Money, Jim Cramer.
Mad Money says the gig economy shafts people and blames, basically, we have the lowest unemployment in 50 years. We just had the results come out, 3.5% unemployment in September of 2019, marking a new 50-year low. The jobless rate dropped 0.2 percentage points, 3.5%. Okay. And wages are up 2.9%, which it's growth, but basically Jim Cramer is saying this gig economy shafts people. You don't do as well in the gig economy. I was surprised that wages didn't advance that much. Basically, he's blaming the gig economy and I guess automation, but he's ragging on the gig economy as to why wages aren't increasing. I think, number one, he's giving the Labor Department way too much credit. That the Labor Department is actually able to measure wage increases accurately, which I guarantee you they're not doing. And I guarantee you the gig economy payments and wages are not properly being factored into overall wages in the U.S. economy. How do I know this? Oh, because I was talking to one of the Fed governors for Philly about whether or not the Fed is calculating GDP properly. He said, absolutely not. Why is that? Because they're not tracking things like GMV. We're not tracking things like all of the increased production for things on content platforms, like an Instagram. Oh, and by the way, Instagram, is that technically in the gig economy? I would actually argue it is, because all the people that have followings on Instagram are making money from their following on Instagram.
There's this artificial distinction between basically producers on a platform and services marketplaces, basically, and producers on basically every other kind of platform. I don't really see a difference. You're still basically an independent worker, dependent on the platform, a producer on that platform, just because Uber and these kind of things fit into old categories of 1099 or not workers.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually make sense to me that everyone's concerned about Uber drivers, but people aren't concerned about YouTube content creators. Right. Or people selling on Amazon, and that they're able to make. It's the same problem, which is producers, how they relate to the platform, and does the platform basically abuse that market power to take advantage of producers?
Yes, it's
the same problem across all these platform types. It just doesn't naturally fit into square peg kind of round hole labor market definitions and laws, because these things are new and different.
New business models, a new way of thinking about income. Right. And then you say, okay, well, how much production from a GDP standpoint do we get out of the content created on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok? I mean, people are making real money off of content platforms, whether that's sponsorships, whether that's, so product sponsorships, whether that's people paying you to put up sponsored posts, whether that's, offline kind of doing events based on your following. And
there's also a lot of value that comes from these things that isn't going to be reflected in GDP, because pretty simply, like if I need to fix a faucet and I learn how to do that on YouTube and I don't have to pay someone, that's not going to be factored into GDP, though. There's a lot of economic value being created there.
Yes.
That's just one example among many.
There's a myriad of examples. So anyway, this was my conversation with the head of the Fed, Philly Fed. We were at this conference in Aspen over the summer, if he's listening and doesn't remember when this happened. And we also then spoke about how they don't know how to accurately track or measure inflation either, for the exact same reasons, right? What if they have 100 products that they're tracking the price of those products, and they're trying to measure inflation on that basket of products? I said, well, are you looking at how much these products cost on Amazon, or are you looking at how much these products cost in Walmart, right? And where are you sourcing these things, and all of the changes that are happening. And then you look at inflation, or exactly to the content that's being created, and all of this stuff that you used to pay for that now is free because of platforms. How do you calculate inflation? And basically the guy, it was very frank and open about it. And he's basically saying, yeah,
we haven't changed the methods.
We haven't yet. Exactly. The methods aren't being updated. And so, yes, these are being historically benchmarked, but they're not being updated to account for platform dynamics.
The modern economy, basically. Yep.
So that's a problem. Anyway, back to Jim Cramer's comments on the gig economy screwing people. I mean, these people, the large majority of people producing on platforms would not have even had the ability to produce had it not been for the platform. So I take issue with these comments.
So there's that, and also the causal relationship is wrong. These basically shift toward more temporary, more 1099 type jobs away from kind of permanent high wage positions is a secular trend that, I don't know, goes back decades. This isn't something that was invented when Uber came around in the 2000s. So the idea that the gig economy is causing this doesn't make sense to me. I think it grew when it did, partly because it overlapped basically with this trend of increasing kind of temporary work. But I would not say that has been a cause or a reason that people are not able to find these jobs. Those jobs are coming from traditional enterprises that aren't hiring those kinds of things anymore.
Now, the one area where there is some alignment between what he's saying and what we talk about is that when the tech monopoly is really tech monopoly status, you are a large tech monopoly, who, between the consumer and the producer, who can be taken advantage of, and is the producer. And so, but that's not really what he's getting at here. But yes, if I am a driver on Uber and and let's say that is my main job, my main source of income, and I get a couple passengers that complain about me and give me a 1-star review or say I'm really bad, or maybe they just, fudge the star rating or hit in their pocket, and like that happens a few times, you can be penalized by the platform. And right now there's no recourse for challenging penalties that come from the platform down to the producer, whether that's Uber or whether that's YouTube or whether that's Instagram. So it's really across the board, A. And then B, particularly on the platforms that have take rates, which is also a YouTube, but it's also an Uber or an Airbnb. The platforms and Amazon, they can raise rates on you, and the producers basically are powerless, especially when there's only one or two dominant players in a given space, which is the natural endpoint for platform industries. So those two things can have a huge adverse effect on producers. But that's different, and he's not getting at that. Hi, this is Alex Mozed. Thanks for joining us on Winner Take All. If you enjoyed the content today, which I bet you did, please comment, subscribe, and definitely message me on Twitter when we're doing live streams. Also, please note, all opinions expressed about stocks or public companies on the show are exactly that, opinions. This is not investment advice. Don't act on it. WisdomTree licensed Applico's Platform Insights data product to aid in the creation of the Plat ETF. Thanks for joining us.